My name is Olivia Norton, and I'm the CTO of an AGI company, a startup in Vancouver. The firm's mandate or vision is to create human-like intelligence in machines, or synthetic humans nearly indistinguishable from us. That's a bit of a long answer. This company is new as of January 2018, but we were spun out of a previous artificial general intelligence and robotics company called Kindred, and I had been working with Kindred for 3 years. So I did an undergrad in computer engineering with a specialization in biomed. Interestingly, the biomed is proving helpful in this case just because of the humanness of the goal that we've set for ourselves. I followed up with a master's in engineering in electrical and computer engineering at UBC, where I tried to focus on the various subcategories of artificial intelligence and machine learning, so natural language processing, computer vision, to make sure I had a good grounding in all aspects of the field. Yeah, but there is a side note that I should make about the nature of startups and the type of business background that is useful for this type of thing as well, because you end up doing all sorts of different tasks in all sorts of different areas, so having a nice broad understanding is a good way to go in. Generally, the CTO is mandated with setting the technical vision and technical future for the company to make the goals possible. So that at a high level is what I do. At a more day-to-day level, I manage the technical side of all the work that we do, which is primarily software related. So we are building cognitive architectures to run robots with intelligence built into them. And that is my focus as a CTO. What I mentioned earlier about having many different types of tasks in many different areas, something that I find really appealing. So being able to pick things up in, say, on the finance side, on the marketing side, on the networking side, I enjoy having access to all that different type of stimulus, and I think is probably one of the things that I really like about my current role. At a more technical level, the goal that we've set for ourselves, I think, is hugely important and will have massive impacts on us as kind of a species. So the impactfulness of the work that we do is also obviously a good effect, yes. The technical challenges are pretty clear. The goal is a huge technical undertaking and is probably the biggest challenge that I face kind of on a day-to-day. Of course, there's team, like you're working with your team and you want to make sure your team is the most efficient unit that it can be, so there's aspects of that can be challenging but are usually constructive and fruitful. Working in the startup space, there's always open questions about timelines and shifting goals. Things move faster generally in startups than they do in the more established larger companies, and so that type of quickly adapting to new circumstances and new environments is important and can be a bit stressful, but ultimately good. Yes, I would say yes, it has. So when I first started, I remember explaining to people what I was doing and using the term AI. I'd usually have to explain that was artificial intelligence. But about a year and a half ago, it really got picked up by the media and more internationally an item of importance, both politically, economically. So there's a lot of money and research going into this field from various, everything from governments to aid type organizations hoping to make the world a better place. the thing about AI is that it is not so much a silo as it is a tool that every other field can leverage to optimize. And people are coming to realize that now, which is why it's so ubiquitous. The reason that I'm doing this is that I think that we as a people, we as humans, are facing a set of challenges in the near and medium term, like I'm thinking this next generation, that are huge, are very large challenges, and I think that as individuals, we have limited capacity to address them, just the scale of the important information required in order to make decisions that are correct. And I think that AGI is going to be the way that we address these challenges. I think that it will continue to be relevant for a long time. So I don't think that that's, a bad idea in terms of your timeline at all. I would think a bit about how you want to apply it, because on one hand it's maybe easy to say that you want to go into AI, but what do you want to use that AI for? Like, what impact do you want to have? And allow that to color your education, because as I mentioned earlier, these systems, not only do you need to understand the structure and the math associated with the technologies themselves, but you need to understand the data. And so keeping in mind what type of data you want to look at in the future is totally relevant, yeah. I love challenges. I have shown to try to find them and to target them in my kind of previous work. And this is a huge challenge. So that is one component, but as I mentioned, it also has this huge potential payback. Now, I don't want to gloss over the fact that there's also going to be some potential, like it's in the media, it's in Hollywood, these negative potential side effects. And I think that thinking things through early on and being aware of these possible negative outcomes is at least the first step. What we're going to do about them will become more clear as we gather more information, but there are some things that we can do now to help make this technology move in the right direction. Technology is technology, and how you use it really comes down to the individuals putting it in place. So we need to keep that in mind, not to subjugate it to too much negative press just because of the nature of it. One of the things that is particularly daunting in this project is that there are many ways at which we can target the problem, many different ways that we can do this. So if you think about the human brain projects that we see in the world right now, some of them start at the level of actually simulating the human brain, which is like a complete mimic of the biology that we have in our heads. All the way up to kind of just the functional and behavioral aspects of what the human brain does, and then there's this whole spectrum in between. And each of those things has a potential path to the goal. But which one is best is a bit of an open question. And so there's a lot of pre-processing and research that can be done in advance, but in some cases it's best just to try something. And I don't know if you guys out there are like me at all, but I have a tendency to want to feel very kind of over-prepared before taking on new tasks. And what I've learned in the last 5 years is that you can prepare a lot, but the first step is probably the hardest part. So getting that out of the way first, and then working towards the ultimate thing is probably a good way to go about things. Yeah. This is interesting because the question of policy with regards to technology is not something that we talk about very much in school. Things might have changed a little bit, I'm not sure. But in my case, we were focused on developing technologies, making things work, and not really talking about how to enforce when and how these technologies were used. And as engineers closest to the technologies, you are the ones that understand how they work, and therefore are most intimately aware of the weaknesses and inherent strengths of the technologies. So it's pretty important to, if not playing a direct role in policy, at least be paying attention to what is going on there, because your voice and your opinion have a lot of weight. And with the hope that we can gear the use of these technologies towards a better future for everybody, you have a part to be played there. So just, handing off the gadget to the next team up is one way to do it, but I would really recommend following that through its lifetime and making sure your technology is being used the way you want it to be used. Look at our productivity as a species from kind of species inception, which was quite a long time ago, up until now, you'll see a big jump around the time of the Industrial Revolution, which is a time when we automated physical labor. So that was a serious inflection point for us as a species. AI and AGI has the potential, and I think a pretty clear potential, of being the next inflection point of this nature on that graph. And so no matter what field you are going into or plan to go into, this is going to have an impact on you. And thinking about and planning for that future is important, because that transition won't be perfect, I don't think, as we saw with the Industrial Revolution, and as we're seeing now with the concerns that are being raised about everything from automation to kind of job loss to, you name it, and it's probably in there. We can prepare for these things. We might not know the answers yet, but we can hypothesize a set of possible futures that we can prepare for. So I would just recommend that everybody be thinking about it.